Okay.
Thanks, Nicole, for having us. It is great to be able to have this unveiling continue. We were really worried that we might lose the opportunity to celebrate together. Every year we have a big get together with snacks and we'll read and share their art. So I was worried that wouldn't happen. Thanks. And it's nice because we have a larger community like Olympia community here that I see. So it's really expanding, I think, the community for the literary journal of SPSCC. So that's awesome. So I'm going to introduce Annabelle Morris. Annabelle is one of our editors. Our other co-editor is Wes Murray. Wes is kind of behind the scenes a tech guy who did a lot of the layout and such. Annabelle is really our what did you say earlier? You said the hype person?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the hype man.
Yeah, so she's been doing a lot of sort of promo stuff for Percival review. It's been great to have her. Not shy to be in front of people talking about the work of the literary journal. So this is Annabelle. I've had her as a student before in the past. I will again, and I can't speak highly enough of what an awesome human she is and what a treat it was to get to work with her. So I'll hand it over to you, Annabelle.
All right, I'm Annabelle. I'm one of the co-editors for the review this year. I've had the blessing of working with Sarah and Wes on this project all year, and it has been so much fun. It's been really interesting having our selections committee broken up right in the middle because we had to all break off into quarantine. So it was really interesting to try to get all of our work together. But everyone that contributed work did a really awesome job, and Wes was really helpful in helping decide what goes in and what looks good. And he did a really good job on that aspect. And I'm really thankful for everyone's support through this whole thing. And I'm so excited to share this year's journal with you guys. It looks so good. And I'm so glad to be here. So thank you for having me, Nicole. All right. I guess from there, Sarah, you had questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to hear a little bit about your experience this quarter because it's different than other quarters. There was a real, we had to be flexible. We had to do things in different ways. And so I'm curious to hear kind of your experience as an editor putting this together.
So at first it was pretty normal. We had all our advertisements at the school up and normal like usual, all the e-boards and the A-boards and everything. And then we started our selections committee after everyone's submissions came in, and then we got one of them done, the one for all the artwork, and that one went really well. But before we could start the second one, like the day before, we were split off into quarantine and everything was shut down. So Wes and I had to kind of figure that out over email, and since we were having technical difficulties sharing our InDesign, we kind of really emphasized the hype man versus the back or behind the scenes guy aspect of our relationship as coworkers, and he did a really good job with that. He kind of took the project on really well while I kind of sat here and sent everyone emails like, come on guys, come look at this, like look how much work everyone has put in. I don't know, it was really interesting seeing what kind of ideas people could come up with, and this has been a really good way to get our journal out there so everyone can see it. So I'm really glad we have the opportunity to do this since we can't do the standard unveiling as usual. And people can have snacks at their own house. They can have whatever snacks they want. So it's not like they're limited to what we bring. So this is really cool.
Awesome. Well, so we have several contributors here today. So I'm just going to completely hand it over to you, Annabelle, and let you introduce folks and have them share their work.
All right. So our first contributor is Mary Carmen Pizzania Ramirez, if I said that correctly. The artwork that we selected for this year's journal was titled Snake, and I believe she has another piece of artwork to show you. So I will turn that over to her and let her show you what she's got done.
Hi, my name is Mary Carmen Pizzania Ramirez. People call me MC. I'm in my second year at SPS, and well, I have some art for you, right? I did print it off because I didn't know if we were going to show it or not. I don't know if that's a good picture of it. It's a digital piece that I did on my cell phone. I want to be a graphic designer. So I've been doing digital for about 2, almost 3 years now. But I started out as a traditional artist, and I actually didn't take any art classes until SPS, so I'm self-taught. I mostly work with colored pencils. So I'm on a laptop, but I can see, if you can see my other stuff, I have a wide variety of things. I touch a bit on watercolor. This is what I did yesterday. I do finger painting acrylic, so all my fingerprints are on it. So a little bit of everything, right? And I mean, I learned, I took Liza Brenner's drawing and painting classes. They were awesome. So thanks to her that I kind of touched more things and really experimented with my stuff.
So the next contributor we have is Helena Bellacropoli. She was a poet. She wrote I Am Woman and Love for the Review this year, and we would love it if you could share your work.
So yes, I am Helena Bellacropoli. I have 2 poems. The first poem, I Am Woman, it's a shorter poem. It's about trauma and the individuality of it. And the other one is a poem about my older brother that passed away a couple years ago, and our relationship. So I'm gonna attempt to do I Am Woman first. I'm gonna be a little more dramatic with it, so I apologize. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start. So it's called I Am Woman, A Look into Trauma. I proclaim I am woman, and I stand solidly against ignorance with the reflection of a reflection, lost within loss of self-worth, seething into the depth of the well-known yet unknown. Searching crowded emptiness, my words drop. I am woman, but the form can no longer hold the essence, trapped in the boundless trap, in the silence of the past or the taunting of memories. Merging trauma's individuality over the fractured and fitted images, I peered into myself, and looking back was I. The fragmented semblance of existence, wearing the assurance of endless suffering, like fadeless pictures threatening vitality. The illusion pieced together by facade, wrapped in a forged composure. I whisper, I am woman. As the destruction of the unexplainable absorbs its new face, and I, woman, become a reflection of the reflection, broken and scattered through pretense, and become one with the rejection of the thoughts that beg of death. So it's called Love. Right, thinking. It starts as a seed, plants roots in your heart, digging its life in yours. Growing together, mending into one, sprouting, reaching for something. I reached my stubby 6-year-old arms towards the ceiling with hope to what feels like heaven's gates in your arms. Even the loudest sound couldn't penetrate the hands no longer kicking on the wall. In that moment, in a drop of a second, the white oak and the red maple trees that whisper secrets to beads of liquid diamonds falling from the sky always froze in your arms. I remember the time when you held me down as my breath retreated into my 8-year-old lungs and hoped that the silence could somehow conquer the glob of saliva that planned to smudge your sibling love all over my face. But unlike your presence, the memory does not fade. Sparks of charisma surrounded the grass beneath your feet and laced the pattern in your cocoa irises. Now, it's forever trapped in the brilliance of your soul. Never realized, never sought out, sunken. Where are you? Where have you been? What right have you to leave? You have surfed the wind far from the restrictive branch you once called your own. The grass is no longer emerald. All that's left is the imprint of your teeth on a single apple. I spoke to you the other day. It was like a stranger's voice on the other side of the receiver. Apologetic, lost, seeking guidance, money. Who are you? Older brother? A man? Strung out? Take the cord from the IV drip and stick it in my veins. Sift all the nectar from my trunk if it means I can listen to your nightingale's song again. So rare, unfamiliar, and so warm. Just say 3 more words. 3 more words. It would echo through my ear and cause a spasmodic euphoria in my chest. Please say another word. Just 1 more. The Marlboro menthol cigarettes, buds, and concrete has covered most of where the lilies used to dance in the wind. I watch. I listen. I wait. Your words come spilling out of the phone as I swallow the news. You're coming to live with me. My childhood person I want to be, like, it's coming. A shineless light to fill hopeless voids collected over empty years and unanswered promises. Where are you? Where have you been? What right have you to leave. The water never reached your garden. I have already been uprooted 1 foot at a time. I called 3 days in a row. Do I always fear the worst? You said you wanted to see your not-so-little sister, whose tummy has expanded to almost twice her size in pregnancy. The birds choke on the callous seeds of life. The song lost its tune. The cemented gravestone in my chest reads, once a beautiful garden ravished by the desire to escape from living. His garden is now vibrant in the sky. 3,617 days since I last heard your voice. Distant as a stranger, yet familiar as my own. I look through my phone. Your name is still in my contacts. You finally found a place where your eyes still brew mocha chocolate when you smile. Where are you? Where have you been? My finger hovers above the call button. Your name is on the screen. In that moment, in a drop of a second, the distance between heaven and the red maple trees are closed. And that's all my bones.
Thank you, Helena. This was beautiful. All right. Our next one is a story from Cynthia DeWitt, a friend for life. She asked if I could read this. I'm not going to tell you about the story. I just want you to listen because it really means a lot. For the first few years of my life, my family lived in a small house, affectionately called the Junker, on my grandparents' business property. My grandfather was a big, burly man with a voice to match his size. His laugh came from deep in his chest. I heard that laugh a lot. One thing he laughed about was his bald head. He would call himself, "You poor old bald-headed grandpa." My grandfather's shop and storage for his construction business were on the same property as the Junker, so he was there almost daily. On a bright sunny day, probably the first warm day of spring, Mom and I were in the yard when Grandpa drove in. He got out of his car and got down on one knee holding out a gigantic ice cream cone that I thought was about as the size of my head. His face was one big smile. I remember the feeling of joy I had as my grandfather got down to my level to connect with me and watch my enjoyment in eating as much of that huge treat as I could fit into my tiny tummy. For 40 more years, my grandfather continued to develop our relationship, and that is exactly what I intend to do with my grandchildren. If I have the same success as my grandfather did, I will have deep friendships for the rest of my life, just like my grandpa had. Ruby is a spunky, wiry little girl with a quick wit and a ton of energy. Her high-pitched voice is like music to my ears, even when she's angry about something, which is pretty common for a 2-year-old with many wants. For almost 3 years, I babysat Ruby every Friday. When she got to the point where she could eat solid foods, I began to share my love for green smoothies with her. It's usually a combination of spinach, banana, blueberries, cauliflower, and almond butter with some additional powdered herbs that complete the nutritional profile of the drink. Almost no one is interested in my green smoothies except Ruby. It is easy for me to give her a cup with a straw and let her have one too. This way we can drink our green smoothies together. She gets to do what Granny is doing. She sucks those things down like they're the best thing ever. When she walks in my door on Friday morning, almost the first thing she does is tell me, "I want a smoothie, Granny." Translation, "I want a smoothie, Granny." When I make our smoothies, she always wants to watch the blender, but it's super loud and I don't want to damage her ears, so I put my foot on a stool and make a seat for her on my leg. She sits on my leg and I press her right ear into my chest while covering her left ear with my hand. We've done this since she was a baby, so this is the smoothie making position. While she's sitting there watching the blender whirl our breakfast, I can kiss her forehead and snuggle her. My heart is full. My grandfather wasn't quite as health conscious as I am. Like Ruby's interest in smoothies came from me, my interest in Crown Royal whiskey came from Grandpa. He wouldn't allow me to taste it when I was a child, but he had a cabinet in his room that he built specifically to hold a bottle of Crown Royal and 2 shot glasses. Since I followed him around a lot, this included the occasional visit to his cabinet. He would make a big deal of pouring the whiskey and, in his words, taking a swig, then making a refreshing noise. Once my childhood ended, Grandpa introduced me to the taste of Crown Royal. To this day, it is my whiskey of choice, and I can always think of Grandpa when I have a swig. Looking back, I can see that this was a move from treating me as a child to treating me as an adult, a new phase to our friendship. My grandfather cherished his relationships with me and my family. Over the years, my family moved away from our home near my grandparents in Richmond, British Columbia to Olympia, Washington, and I grew up and got married, but my relationship with my grandparents did not suffer despite it being difficult to get up and see them once I was married and working full-time. My husband and I still went up several times a year, even after our children were born. I remember speaking to my grandfather and asking if he had any plans for a particular weekend, and he told me all about his plans with his best friend, Bill Monroe, who lived in Vancouver Island. Suddenly my grandfather stopped and said, "Hey, wait a minute, were you planning to come up that weekend?" I said that we had some time, but I certainly didn't want to disrupt his plans with Bill, as it was not often that Bill could make it over to the mainland anymore. I'll never forget my grandfather's words to me, "You are my priority. I will cancel anything that gets in the way of spending time with you." And he did. He canceled with Bill. My family and I spent the weekend with my grandparents. Making a grandchild a priority is one part in creating an abiding relationship. As my grandfather so clearly did that with me, I am already making a point of this with Ruby. Every Sunday, we have a family dinner at my house, but I've had a lot of schoolwork and spending some of that time in my room writing rather than interacting with the family. Ruby knocks on my door. "Gowie, Gowie, I want you." I brought some xylitol candies that Ruby loves. When she comes for me, she opens her mouth and I pop in what she calls a berry mint. The stars are right next to my door. Ruby taps on a stair and says, "Sit with me, Gowie." How can I resist? Seriously, I can't, and it's better that I don't. I'd rather be up until midnight than turn her away. I know that these times are when our relationship is being set in cement. She knows already that she's a priority to me, and I never want her to feel otherwise. She's my little darling and always will be. My grandfather knew that Bill Monroe wasn't going to come clean his house or sit by his bed when he was sick, but I was. He knew that as a good friend as Bill was, he wasn't the one who knew what every expression on his face meant and could practically read his mind and still love him like crazy. While having children isn't always within our control, having grandchildren is definitely not in our control. Those of us who have them have a fantastic resource for strong, positive friendship. When the grandchildren are little, it is an excuse to play hide under the covers and wait for the monster to find us. It's a way to notice everything as if it's all brand new and exciting when we have paused our peak and are heading into the second half of our lives. Entering into play with a small child brings out a new perspective on life, especially from the position of a grandparent who is more of a wise and safe playmate than they are a parent. My grandfather set my standard for grandparent-grandchild relationships. I tried to emulate him in my interactions with my grandchildren, knowing that they are soaking everything in. My hope is that the relationships I form now will last for the rest of my life, both as a benefit to my grandchildren and to me. They will likely surround me and hold my hands while I lay dying. I understand that I am supremely blessed to have these relationships in my life. Looking back on my relationship with my grandfather, I am particularly glad that I was there for him because he taught me to be a good friend. That is my goal with my grandchildren, to teach them to be a good friend by being a good friend to them. Thank you. All right, so I think I saw Cynthia in here if she wants to say a couple words about this piece. If not, we will move on.
Mel, thank you for your lovely reading.
Thanks. It was a really good piece. Thanks for submitting it.
Thank you.
Melissa said, brava. Sarah said, beautiful readings. Cynthia said, thank you, Helena, lovely readings. Your use of the mirror was very good. And I have to agree, that was amazing. The depth of your love for your brother is clear, not only in your words, but in your presentation of the poem. Jennifer said, so wonderful, Helena. Thank you for reading. MC said, wonderful. Melissa said, thank you for sharing, really wonderful. And Jennifer, is this in response to Cynthia's reading? As Jennifer said, love hearing these words. And I think that's everything from the comments. Turning it back over to you, Annabelle.
All right. Our next contributor is Andrea Poussin. She also asked if I could read. Her poem is titled The Fire. The fire burns orange and bright. It warms my skin and brings delight. I lose myself in phosphorescence. I drown within the incandescence and slip swirling slowly in the night. The blazing pyre bringing luminosity devours the timber with proficiency, and the sea of flames is now aglow. I sit and watch it grow and grow. In facing fear follow the intensity. Charring coals send searing sparks, dancing heat waves, ripple marks. But now the embers I must stoke, setting flame to the widest of oak, and maleficently my memory harks. Right. And if you want to say a few words about that one, Andrea, you are more than welcome to do so. Thank you for submitting such a lovely poem.
Oh. Sorry, I'm still crying from Helena's poem. So I haven't stopped crying since she read that poem. Thank you for reading mine, because I wouldn't have made it through it. That poem, I camp a lot with my kids, and I wrote that one night. I was sitting around a bonfire. It was just flowing through my head, and I had to just put it down on paper. But yeah, I can't even talk about it because I can't stop thinking about Helena's right now. Right. So I'm done after that for the day. So thank you for sharing that poem, Helena. Absolutely. Because it really hit home. So and thank you for reading mine.
Our next contributor is Julio Arana. He has some artwork, if you'd like to share it. He has a self-portrait and a landscape done on wood, which is very impressive.
Okay, so this one is my art that I do in wood. And I especially look for pieces of wood that has the grain, that sometimes when I see the wood grains in wood, I can kind of picture what's gonna be, or try to find what I can do with it. So this is one of my pieces that I made like last year, and so basically it's like a view in the beach, and but yeah, it's some of the colors are kind of like it has when I create my art in the wood, it kind of like I let it sit, the paint, so that way it goes into the wood, and then after that I seal it, and then it comes really good. And then my other one, okay, well this one, that one is a very special for me, because 3 years ago I got injured in my work, and then plus I was discriminated. So this one, it was kind of like, for me, was my picture, basically, that's the way I was feeling. And so basically I was trying to heal, and this is one of my pieces that basically, usually I don't do a self-portrait, but this one I was in that time that when I was like really low, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna come out of that, and that way I'm gonna be painting something that is basically talking about me. And basically this is the one that I create, and I put a zipper because that's the way for me to heal and leave everything behind. And and but this one I'm gonna put it in wood, so that's gonna be my next project for me. And yeah, so this is, I kind of put it like, like cards and all that, because that's I was feeling. And yeah, so this is my self-portrait. And thank you for letting me share my art with you guys. And because it's this one science is my last, this is my last year. I just graduate. I wasn't, last year I didn't share it because I was like more like, this is only for me. But this year I say, I gonna share my self portrait. And yes, this is one of my, basically like more special for me. And thank you.
All right, Sarah said, I love seeing such a huge variety of experiences and work this way, such an intimate way to connect with each of you as artists. Andrea said to Helena, thank you for sharing your poem. It really hit home. I almost lost my brother 2 years ago to addiction. I couldn't hold it together listening to you. I'm sorry for your loss. Cynthia said, beautiful use of grain of the wood for the waves for Julio's piece. Andrea said, how unique, the wood grain is awesome to incorporate into your art. Sarah said, this is very powerful, Julio. Cynthia said, fantastic work, Julio. I can imagine that self-portraits must be difficult, but this is excellent. Jennifer said, wow, I could spend hours looking at this. Agreed. Andrea said, Cynthia, I love your writing, reminding me of my daughter and mother's relationship. They're very close, beautiful writing. And Helena said, this is beautiful. I understand discrimination and how it makes you feel. Andrea said, Julio, your self-portrait is amazing. So much detail and expression. And Sarah said, thanks for sharing this part of yourself with us. Helena said, I like your wood piece. I want to start with wood art. It's inspiring. And I'm going to turn it back over to you, Annabelle.
All right. If it's possible, if anyone has the book up, could you screen share the cover? So I want to talk about why we chose that one real quick.
Real quick on this page, just so y'all know, the snake is MC's snake on the right. And I'm going to scroll back to the cover. It's a little awkward. We'll peek inside the journal.
A little preview.
There you go.
All right. So this piece was done by Matthew Love, and as soon as we put it on the screen at the selections committee, everyone was just kind of both amazed and baffled by it because it is such an exquisite piece of art. It looks like this is probably one of those ones that's all done with one line, except for some of the detailing. But we chose this one for the cover because it's called We're All in This Together, and it just seemed really fitting for what everyone was going through at the time and right now. Since we're all apart from each other physically, we can't go and see each other, but we're all going through it at the same time. We're all going through this together. I think I mentioned some of that in the editor's note, but this piece really spoke to us all on a emotional level. So we wanted to put that one on the front to showcase it this year. So yeah, that was why we chose that one. If anyone else has work they want to share, if other contributors are in here, I think we have a couple minutes to do so if you would like. If not, then that is all right too.
Also, if anyone has questions or comments, anything you'd like to ask the artists or the editor, any comments you'd like to make?
That's all right.
I don't know how I lucked out with that with 4 kids that I'm like homeschooling during all of this. I haven't had one Zoom meeting. I've been so grateful for that. I had a question though about the copies of the journal. How can we, are they being mailed or how can we get those?
For the contributors, we're mailing you each 2 of them. We haven't gotten a word back from Gorham Printing with an estimated shipping date for when they'll be at the school. But when we do get that, we will let everyone know, and then we will also let you know when we mail them out. For others, we will be putting physical copies out during winter quarter, I believe, if everything is open back up like normal. And you can find copies in the Diversity and Equity Center, the library, the Student Life, all over campus.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Of course.
Will they also be available digitally somehow?
Wes is trying to work on that. We haven't heard back on an update since then, but he's experimenting with different ways to do that. So we will hopefully have a digital copy up soon.
We also have a PDF that went out to the SPSCC community, and
Okay. I personally want to say thank you to you guys for all the work that you've done. And for the other artists, I want to say that you've done really beautiful work. And Cynthia, just like you, I haven't really been on Zoom a lot. I have done the homeschooling. We've done like Zoom and Google Meets, but I'm still getting used to this on my phone. So I'm like, how do you do this? Is this muted? But I wanted to say thank you guys for all your beautiful comments, and I love seeing your artwork, and I love hearing your poems and your stories. And this was really a great way to kind of like get to know everybody and be inspired to create more.
It was really great. I loved it. I already graduated at SPSCC, but I still feel like part of a community. It's great. It's awesome.
Well, congratulations.
hey, yeah, congratulations to everyone who's graduated.
Yeah.
I wanted to quickly add that, so Jennifer Burney and I have been doing unveilings together for quite a while. And we've been doing, Jen, you've been doing Percival Review even longer than I've been involved. And this feels like the most intimate, personal unveiling that I've experienced. And I just want to acknowledge the level of vulnerability that folks showed in sharing their work. And I actually, Cynthia, I loved hearing your piece, and I loved hearing it interpreted through somebody else. That was really interesting too. And same with you, Andrea. And so just thanks for sharing. And it makes me think about the ways that we can do unveilings in the future to get this real sense of community. So
I like this. I went to the unveiling in 2017 at the school, and I definitely feel like this was way more personal. This was great. So thank you guys for putting this together.
Absolutely.
And thank you for reading that. I usually read that poem like a chant, and you read it totally different than I've ever read it, but I loved it. So
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you to Percival Review, all of the contributors for participating today. This something, we do these every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 with the same link you used to get in here, but we've really been featuring a lot of local artists, and we've only had a couple opportunities to feature students, and like, of course, you're a local artist too, and it was just great to be able to learn more about your work and feature you today. And so thank you all so much.
yes, thank you.
Sarah, for helping make this happen. A round of applause for everyone.
Yes.